Time-lapse footage can be really dramatic, but it takes quite a while to capture. Today I'm going to share how I approach getting as much footage as I can when I have time out in the field. Later in the video, I'm going to talk about some of the ways I use this footage, including a project that I just finished and got to premiere at an art gallery here in town. Later this summer, it's also going to get exhibited over a 3-day period at a different art gallery here in town, so it'll be my first exclusively time-lapse project to get that kind of attention locally. These projects can be a great way to tell part of a story or even the entire story. Recently, a line of thunderstorms was going to pass west of town, and I decided I was going to throw some camera gear in a bag and head out to a park that I was pretty sure would have a good view of the clouds. One of the big challenges for time-lapse footage, particularly if you want to end up with a large library of shots, is the amount of time it takes to get a very small amount of footage. Storm footage, I'm usually shooting at about a 2-second interval, which means if I render out at 30 frames a second, every minute I spend on site with the camera running gets me 1 second of footage. It's going to take a darn long time to build up a whole lot at that rate. And it's a little bit better at 24p, which is usually what I shoot at, but only a tiny bit better. When I started shooting time lapses, I only had one camera, so I was really limited to that 1 minute in the field equals 1 second of footage. And that can be super frustrating when you set up a shot, when it turns out that what looks like really dramatic footage kind of fizzles out, or somebody walks through your shot, which happens a lot. There's some weird human behavior where there's a certain percentage of the public, when you turn a camera on, suddenly feels a need to be in front of it. So prepare yourself for that if you haven't experienced it yet. It can be a little bit frustrating if you're halfway through a sequence and somebody decides that right in front of you is where they need to be. So the first thing that I did was get a second camera, and that seems pretty obvious, but you double the amount of footage in the same amount of time. With 2 cameras and 2 tripods, I can have cameras pointed 2 different directions and get 2 different scenes, or I can shoot a wide shot and a narrow shot of the same area to kind of get a detailed focus point. You do have to watch how you frame your shots and how you set up your tripods so that you don't walk into one shot while you're checking on the other camera, but that becomes pretty instinctive pretty quickly. I have a bad habit of pacing when I'm shooting these, and I do have to be mindful of where I'm standing and where the camera is picking up footage from. For the time-lapse sequences that I shot last week, I brought 3 of my cameras with me. All of these were paid for with my own money, and all except for one of them were at standard retail pricing. I did get one of my lenses, the 12 to 40 2.8 Pro from Olympus. I got that when I still worked at a camera store, so I did get a little bit of a discount on it, though a new version has come out since then, and you can get the version that I got for even cheaper than I purchased it for with the employee discount of the time. It's been a lot of years since I worked there, and I do miss those discounts, but all of the rest of the gear was purchased new or used at the regular retail price. My 12 to 40 lens gives me everything from wide to slightly cropped in past a normal view, which is really handy for these kinds of shots, and I had it coupled to a EM1 Mark III from Olympus that I bought used with a lot of miles on it. And looks like it was carried daily. It's pretty rough, but I usually shoot with electronic shutters, so I'm not worried about the shutter giving out, and it was a really great deal. And one benefit of that body is it's weather sealed, and 2, its battery capacity is a lot better than some of the smaller Olympus cameras that I have. So 2 batteries really gets me through a full day of shooting most of the time for this kind of work. In theory, it can also be powered from a battery bank. I've not tried that, but I do have a large battery bank if I was going to shoot for a really extended period of time. The second camera is my Canon R50. I've got a love-hate relationship with this camera. I had it converted to infrared, but while it does do time-lapse video, it only does it in HD quality, and it does not have an internal intervalometer. To make things worse, it doesn't have an external trigger jack, so you can't use an external intervalometer. So it's kind of a frustrating camera. I'll probably pick up a different camera to convert at some point. But even at HD resolution, infrared footage just looks wild, and I think it's a fun thing to add to time lapses. The R50 does use a smaller battery than the Olympus does, but I've still had pretty good luck with only carrying 2 batteries and getting what I needed out of a day. That camera is not weather sealed, unlike the Olympus, which is. So if I see rain coming, I need to pay attention and get it into a bag to protect it. And lots of times great footage happens right before the storm hits. So it can be something to think of if you're considering getting a camera for this kind of work. Weather sealed's probably a good idea if you can swing it. The final camera I brought is a new addition to my collection. I picked up an Insta360 Ace Pro 2 action camera. It's a handy little tool. I used it for this video for shooting some behind-the-scenes stuff, and I also used it for some of the time-lapse sequences. Not only does it have a great internal time-lapse feature, which can render, I believe, 8K and certainly 4K movies, all processed in body, you can also just capture straight JPEGs with its built-in intervalometer and then reassemble them in post. It's such a tiny camera, I got a little itty bitty tripod that has a hook on the back that I can latch onto things that I usually carry with me. Also with like a magic arm, you could just clamp it onto another tripod and get a third view. I've also used it with a hot shoe mount so I can set it just on top of one of the other cameras that I have on a tripod. And the big benefit of so many cameras is you get triple the footage. So it's still not tons and tons of footage for an afternoon out, but you get 3 times what you would have had if you were only carrying one camera. I have too many cameras and I have some full frame stuff too. I don't carry those because these all have plenty of resolution for what I'm doing, especially in daylight shots where I'm not worried about the smaller sensor size of my Micro Four Thirds stuff. And it allows me to put more in a relatively small bag. I've got a mid-sized bag that'll hold all 3 cameras, plus ND filters, any accessories that I need, audio gear if I want to bring audio gear. I'll also hold like a snack and a rain jacket if I need to bring that with me. It was super windy that day, so I did set up my tripods with a wider stance so they didn't blow over. One of the 2 tripods is made out of carbon fiber. I got it used at a crazy deal, and it's great because it's super light. It's also horrible because it's super light. If you set it up vertically as high as it'll go, it has a tendency to get blown over if the wind gets really stiff. So throwing the legs out really wide helps them not get wobbled around too much and have shaky footage, and also keeps them from getting blown over. I'd originally set up pretty high on a hill because it gave me a great view, but found that people, like I mentioned earlier, like to walk through shots. So I ended up moving to a spot not too far from the first one that has taller grass, and that kept people from walking through my shots. So what do you use this footage for? Well, on its own, it can be very dramatic, especially on social media posts. If you want to do a short or something like that, you can flip the camera sideways and capture what you need, and it can make for really dramatic social media posts. And there are also neat ways to show longer periods of time in either documentary work, or I like to do some just straight art films that are just kind of there to wow the audience a little bit. I'd mentioned at the start of the video that I got to premiere my first purely time-lapse project earlier this year, just a couple of weeks ago. It's a 17-minute short movie that is all time-lapse, all shot at a tall grass prairie restoration project north of the city that I live in. And it was a really wonderful project. We went out at least once a week for at least an hour, wandered around and captured everything from seasonal change to how they maintain the prairie to the great storms and weather that happen out on a large body of land like that. I captured over 100,000 images initially and then whittled that down to about 30,000 or just under that for the final project. If you do the math on that, that's about 55 hours of capture time. That's a lot. And it's only 1 hour per week, but some of the time that I spent there was hiking or composing or waiting for weather to do interesting things or waiting for stuff to get out of my way. So it's a lot of time out in the field. Took about 12 months to shoot it, and then a little bit longer to work on the soundtrack, which I collaborated with my wife, who's a musician. Having more than one camera really made the whole process a lot more efficient, and I'm really proud of the end result. If you'd like to add powerful visuals to your work, I think time lapses are a great tool to have in your toolkit. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, if you have any tips, or if you've spent time shooting time lapses and what those experiences were like. Good luck in your art journey, and we'll see you next time.